Hello everyone. Earlier this year I decided to create a game with no experience in game development, and today I will show you the first design of the movement mechanics in the game. Unreal Engine already comes with a basic set of walking and sprinting mechanics, so I just built on top of those ones. So the first thing I did was create a series of obstacles of different heights and different widths, since I want the player to be able to vault and climb onto objects. The next step was identifying the object you have in front of you, identifying the height and the width, and playing a certain animation depending on those numbers. I also took into consideration whether the player is sprinting or just walking in order to play different animations, so as to not lose any momentum when you're sprinting. So this would just be the normal. If he were to sprint, he would go quicker. This is normal climbing. That's if he's sprinting. Above certain height, I didn't want the player to be able just to jump and hang on to things, so he will have to have momentum. He will have to be sprinting in order to be able to climb certain obstacles. Same as this one. This one is higher, so instead of actually just climbing on top, he will actually grab onto the ledge and then be able to mantle up. With these ones, I wanted the player to be able to vault them. So for those who want to know, the basic design of this is that when a player presses space, the first thing it does is do a line trace forward of him. So if I were here, there's a line trace hitting this wall, and then a series of line traces going up the wall until it hits nothing, determining the height. Same thing happens here. A series of line traces hit the top and move across and determine the width. Depending on those, you use the motion warping plugin built into Unreal Engine to basically determine at what point in the animation the character must be doing what and at what height on the obstacle. If you're interested, you can always leave a comment and I will make a tutorial on it. But basically this is it. The first thing I wanted to do was create a map where I could try and experiment with the animations I wanted to do. Once I had the basic movement covered, I moved on to ledge grabbing, which is tedious to say the least, or at least I didn't, well, of course I don't have the experience, but it was one of the things that was harder for me to grasp. I made several animations when he actually jumps from one obstacle to the other to ledge grab, and depending on the height of the obstacle with respect to the player, he will do one animation or the other. So let's say for example this jump. This jump is high enough to where the player cannot directly jump on it, but it is also not low enough for the player just to hang. So he will do an animation where he just places one foot on top of the platform, but the other one hangs, and he needs to push himself upwards. If he is lower, he will do another animation, and so on. I think there's up to 4. Another thing I wanted to implement, which I really enjoyed in games like, for example, Titanfall 2, was the wall running part of it. So basically this is the same principle. The player will detect if there's a wall, attach to the wall, and then move along the wall. Except I didn't want it to be as prolonged as with Titanfall 2, so the gravity is increased and the amount of time the player can be stuck to the wall is decreased. I of course have been touching up those numbers, and this is nowhere near the final result, but it's a start. I also thought that the camera tilting gave it a nice touch, except I think this is a bit maybe too exaggerated. After the ledge grab, I went on to do basically the movement on ledges. So jumping up, moving to both sides, and finally the mantling up. Once I did the basic movement mechanics over obstacles, the ledge grabbing, and the wall run, I decided to implement something that I've always liked in games, which is the grapple hook. One of my most preferred mechanics in games is the grapple hook, such as in Dying Light, or Titanfall 2, or Pathfinder and Apex Legends, for example. Except I wanted the player to swing from the grapple hook instead of actually grappling towards it. So what I did was look at the movement, for example, in Spider-Man and how he acts as a pendulum. So then I started designing the grapple hook and the rope. And after many tutorials and experimenting, I managed to get something that feels good to the player. I also wanted the player to have several options. So once he's hooked onto something, he will be able to simply cancel the grapple hook in order just to fall directly to the floor. He will be able to jump, but the jump will always take into account the speed of the player as he's swinging. And I wanted also to have the option to pull yourself towards the hook a bit, such as in Dying Light 2. where they also made the change from a grapple hook that takes you towards the point where it grappled to a swinging hook. But they also added the functionality where you can actually pull yourself towards the point of contact. So yeah, that's the basic movement. If you want to know the details or how exactly I did it, you can always ask me for a tutorial. Since I'm doing the game in Unreal Engine, all the coding is done with blueprints. And this is what I have for now. Thanks for watching everyone, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep updated on the development of the game. I'll see you in the next one.